It's lost between all my tabs. Well, I will, while we wait for people to join, I will just remind everyone of our game. You can comment on Brian's keynote earlier, and then there's also the space for this session where the question is to identify an ethical consideration for AI in design here. And with Brian, it was to share what you're excited for the future of Ellucian here. So, a gem today by just answering both of those. You just need to complete two tasks. I will give it just one more minute before I start. Hey Heather, hi Santiago. Loretta, happy to see you. All right, maybe I can start now. Now that we have a bit of a group. Hello, everyone. So since this year's Design Days theme is AI collaboration, I thought of sharing a bit of my journey analyzing my role as a UX designer in the new era of AI. I know everyone everywhere is like facing the reality of like questioning your own role and how it will change. And as Brian said earlier today, like the world has moved on and we don't have to worry about drop downs anymore, maybe. So yes, like what are the new limits of our roles, and not just in design, but every little piece of product development. So I will walk you through a train of thought I've been having, some role models I have in the industry that I've been listening to, and we can just think about it. And maybe I will end before the hour finishes so that we can open up our mics and have a conversation. But to start, I have a board, as always. So UX, it's human creativity, and now we are adding AI. How does that work, right? Like, I bet we've all been thinking about this. So I will walk you through what human creativity is, like to start with. Like we are humans, we create things. What does that mean? What is our role in creativity? And then AI. So to do that, I want to show you two diagrams by two of my role models I found. One is Neri Oxman, and the other one is Marzia Mortati. Actually, Marzia wrote a paper on Neri Oxman's diagram, and she introduced her own diagram. And there's this whole conversation about design, human creativity, AI. And I just want to share that with you, and we can think about it and talk about it. So let's start with Neri Oxman's. She is called nature's architect, also known as the modern day Leonardo da Vinci. because she has a very multidisciplinary approach to design. I will show you in a bit how she thinks about design, and I think it's very interesting. And she also has a philosophical approach named material ecology. She started her career as a medical student. She started studying medicine, then architecture. Her parents are architects. And then she went into industry, like industrial design and material engineering. So, and she has a very biological approach to materials. She wants to grow materials instead of synthesize them or create them. She talks about her designs not having parts, but being like an organism. She has like this very interesting approach to things. And now she founded a company named Oxman that works very similarly to her MIT laboratory she used to run. Um, so if you want to learn more about her, there's a Netflix series called Abstract and Neri Oxman's episode of that series is great. My mind was blown, and I've been thinking about it ever since I watched it. So she has this diagram, and it's called the Krebs cycle of human creativity. It's meant to represent how humans create and all the modalities of our awareness. So it's human awareness to create intellectual energy and currency. Now, this is inspired by the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is how cells in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, um, transforms nutrients to create chemical energy. So she thought about that creative process in the cell since she started her career in medicine. And she made the metaphor of humans having that same type of creative process, but just by creating through design, art, science, and engineering. But this cycle is linear and one directional. Well, it's not linear, it's cyclical, but it's one directional. And human creativity is multi-directional. There's arrows pointing in all the directions here. So let's think about this diagram a little bit. The role of science is to explain and predict the world around us. It converts information into knowledge. The role of engineering is to apply scientific knowledge to the development of solutions for empirical problems, utility, knowledge into utility. The role of design is to produce the embodiment of solutions that maximize function and augment the human experience. It converts utility into behavior. That's our role. The role of art is to question human behavior and create awareness of the world around us. So it converts behavior into information. And then the clock strikes midnight. And this is what Neri Oxman calls the Cinderella moment, when our perception of the world inspires new scientific exploration with art and science like crashing. And I think that's beautiful. I love that concept. Everyone, well, if you know me, you know I love game design because I say that game design is the art form of experience design. So I love to explore the art so that I can get to know the science behind what I do. So this is the flow we have between philosophy and economy, between perception and production, between culture and nature. And moving around this cycle is what makes us creative humans. So what Neri Oxman says is that she's a designer, but she's also an artist, an engineer, a scientist. because she doesn't limit her work to one of these corners, because really the currency and the energy starts flowing when you move through disciplines. And she encourages her employees at Oxman and also her students at the MIT laboratory to create projects that can be both published on a scientific magazine or a medical magazine and exposed at a art museum at the same time, the same project. And earlier today, Brian talked about main stage wording experiences. And I think that is like our art museum phase. Like we want to be able to show this and wow people, but we also want it to be scientifically sound, right? Like the bones of it have to be strong, and we have to know that all of our higher ed knowledge and expertise is being delivered, and that we are covering all the bases. So this is the first diagram. I love it. I've considered getting a tattoo, but I think it's too many words. And then the second diagram is Maritza Mortati's five-order model of design. So let's talk about Maritza a little bit so we know who we're talking about. She's a designer in Italy, and her expertise is on public services. So she's very interested on the future of design research and practice, of data and innovation, and now with the role of artificial intelligence in public services. And as I said, she published an article exploring Neri Oxman's diagram, and she introduces this diagram of the five order of model design. Also thinking about like Neri Oxman's diagram. So in here we see how we design the tangible and the intangible, the physically intangible and the mentally intangible. And here you may see familiar names like graphic design, symbols and images. You focus on the artifacts, the objects, the spaces, the messages. Industrial design, products and objects. Interaction design, sounds familiar. Designing services, experiences, sounds familiar. Interfaces, information, you're focusing on the tools. Designing systems, strategies, businesses, organizations, governments. You focus on the process and the performance. I think we're all here involved in some sort of thing like that. And notice how all of these circles overlap. And then we end up in transformation design. Sounds familiar? Our fifth value, transform. We are all transformation designers. We want to change socio-technical system, data feedback loops, pathways to transformation. We want to create the future of higher education. So we are designing data, big and thick data, values. We are designing the mentally intangible. How do we do that? If you are like me, you're getting excited, but also overwhelmed. How do we cover all the bases in the human creativity cycle and design things that are mentally intangible to our little brains? Even if you're designing a symbol, an image, if you go deeper into the layers, behind this circle is the social transformation that you're designing. So all of this is in our hands. How do we design ethically? How do we create ethically? We have to cover all the bases and all the layers and things that are not visible or tangible to us. How do we make sure we are transforming higher ed in the way that we want to? How do we know how we want to transform it? There's this article by Nikolai and Peter here. That is a response to Bansal and friends article on strategies, ecological fallacy, how strategy scholars have contributed to ecological crisis and what we can do about it. So Bansal and his friends says that all strategic models and everything we've ever done is flawed because we are destroying the environment and everything is going down, and we should reimagine everything and throw away the playbook. And he suggests that nature should be our main stakeholder and everything else should be secondary. And what Nikolai and Peter say is that ethical creation does not ignore the knowledge that precedes it. They argue that we shouldn't throw out the playbook. We should follow it. We should really follow it, because the reason why we're destroying the environment and everything's going down is because we've been ignoring the knowledge. Like, we have it, but we take advantage of it and we look for the loopholes and we try to work around constraints. So what they say is we should embrace the existing literature, constructs, frameworks, and theories and really follow it. So what they're really saying is we should cover all the bases, not ignore the science, not ignore the art, the culture, not ignore the engineering. Because the reason why we end up hurting ourselves is because we corner ourselves into one of these corners and we ignore some of the knowledge that we have. So they argue that it's not that all strategic paradigms are flawed, but that we are not using them correctly. So they argue that we should use our knowledge correctly. So what happens with human creativity and the ethics of it with the introduction of AI in the creative process? I will give you some seconds because that was too much. But now I will show you a video. Let me know if you can hear it. I will check if I'm sharing my sound. Yes. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
Imagine a world in which a product can be designed and reunite with the environment after it's created. And consider a world in which the design of buildings, structures, and communities can rewild natural ecosystems. Hi, I'm Neri Oxman. I'm the founder and CEO of Oxman. Oxman is a design innovation laboratory and a company of builders, of makers that operate across design, technology, engineering, and science. We seek to reinvent everyday objects for the benefit of both humanity and the natural world. One of the challenges for designers is that we're trained to think in 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z. Nature doesn't work that way. In the natural world, specifically in the biological world, you have many more dimensions that describe how an organism is shaped, how it is formed, how it behaves, how it responds, how it adapts, and how it evolves. For example, we're working on shoes that are ecologically considered using robotics and AI and materials innovation. It is a product that can ultimately entirely biodegrade in the soil, and then that particular product continues its life. So designing decay is just as important as designing the product itself. AI-powered algorithms allow us to speak with and for nature. I think of the relationship between AI and humanity similarly to how I think about the relationship between nature and humanity. This is a relationship that can be shaped and should be shaped over space and over time to deliver solutions that benefit both nature and humanity. we make all these assumptions and we design these ecosystems and these landscapes with nature in mind. But never before had we had this access to the natural world in very, very high resolution. AI provides the ability to process very large amounts of data in a very, very short time. It also can be shaped as a thinking partner in the design process. How can we bring synergy between the built and the grown? And AI enables us to do just that. Is there a world in which designing a product, like a wearable or a shoe, like a building or even a city, is actually better for nature than it would have been without its existence? What does that world look like, and how do we prepare next generation designers, builders, thinkers to work and design tools and technologies that allow us to achieve that synergy?
Okay, so that was another bunch of things to think about. So let's break it down. So Neri Oxman in the video says that the relationship between humanity and AI is a relationship that can be shaped, that should be shaped over space and time to deliver solutions that benefit both nature and humanity. Think about shaping relationships. Let's play around with my set theory puzzle. We have nature as our universe. Sometimes we think about humanity as something that is outside of nature or a little bit outside of nature, right? Sometimes we see nature as something that is outside of us and humanity is here. But if we don't ignore the science, we know we are right in there. All of us, all we do is natural. The earrings I'm wearing are natural. The products I design are natural. The thoughts I have are natural. Everything we do is natural. So if I think I'm outside here, I will design differently than if I think I'm in here, right? And then me, myself. If I see myself as human or not, if I see myself as part of nature or not, that will make me act differently, design differently. But if I don't ignore the science and the fact that I'm in here, it will be different. And what about you? If I think you are outside of me, and or that you are not human or not natural, I act differently towards you. That's the cause of a lot of our problems. And really, you and me, we are the same thing. If I design a shoe and I think that shoe is not part of nature, that shoe will be very different than if I think the shoe is part of nature or part of humanity or a part of me. If I design a building and I think it's outside of nature, it will be very different than if I think it's part of nature or part of humanity or part of me. If I use AI and I think it's outside of nature or outside of humanity or outside of me, I will shape the relationship to benefit or not nature or humanity or me. So this made me think a lot of how we shape our relationship with AI. We give it a role in our day-to-day lives. We give it a role in our process. We give it a role in our team, in our company, and we shape that role. It doesn't happen like out of the blue automatically. It isn't inherent of AI what it does. We tell it what to do. So what do we want to do with it? Neri says that AI can be shaped as a thinking partner in the design process. She uses it to, for example, design decay to predict how the products will behave and disappear into the ecosystem. She says that AI should enable us to bring synergy between the built and the grown, synergy between nature and human creation. So what type of nature are we working with here at Ellucian? The grown. Humans sharing knowledge, humans educating next generations. A lot of animals share intergenerational knowledge, right? That's just our nature of sharing what we have with our kids and their kids so that we can survive and build on top of each other and step on each other's shoulders so that we can grow together. So, how do we create products that make these better than if we didn't create the product? Not just intervene or take advantage or make profit out of it, but actually make it better than if our product didn't exist. And what Neri is saying that AI can do is bring this synergy because nature is very complex, it's huge. You saw those simulations in the video where Neri was like showing how AI modeled with algorithms like the behavior of bacteria, of landscapes, of buildings. How might we do that with the nature we work with the human sharing of knowledge we call education sometimes, because education is also some sort of like build we do. So how do we create that synergy between our human creativity with the Ellucian products and the nature it goes to? A world in which designing a product is actually better for nature than it would have been without its existence. You saw how that shoe, when it decays and it's absorbed by the earth, it makes the earth better. It fertilizes it so that plants can grow better in there. So imagine our products like decaying into the system, so to speak, and making it better. Not just neutrally good, but better, positive impact. So we have a Ellucian Board of Directors member here, Dr. Paul LeBlanc. He has decades of experience transforming higher education with technology, and he talks about the role of AI in higher education, reinventing learning in the age of AI, putting human well-being, connectedness, and flourishing at the center of the work. He spoke at eLife this year. I feel like the year is almost over, so I'm already in 2026. eLife 2025, he spoke and he said something like this. I think education is going to be a lot less about epistemology, about knowing. Epistemology is the like philosophy of knowing, and more about ontology, about being. If he's right about moving from epistemology to ontology, which are really questions about being and how you are in the world, what does it mean to be a good human being? The impact we want to have in the nature of humanity. How do you understand and navigate the world of others, etc.? That is the realm of humanities, that's literature, that's what stories do. Here we're talking about philosophy, economy, science, art, engineering, all of the things applied to education for the benefit of human nature. We are moving from an information economy to a care economy. That's what AI can do. AI can do information economy. It can process large amounts of data. We no longer have to design information systems. we have to design caretaking systems, systems that care, that transform humanity to benefit its nature, what naturally grows out of humanity in the ethical way that we want that transformation to be directed in. So think about that. You are shaping your relationship with AI to trigger that synergy or to accelerate that synergy between nature and your human creativity. How can AI help you comprehend nature, cover all the bases in, oh no, cover all the bases in Neri Oxman's diagram? I hate these gestures. How can AI help you comprehend all of these? Cover all the bases. It's a lot of information. It's big and thick data. It's mentally intangible to us. Maybe AI can help us cover all the bases and not ignore our previous knowledge so that we can create ethically, embracing existing literature, constructs, frameworks, and theories, covering all the bases, going through the whole cycle, understanding the economy, the philosophy, the culture, the nature, the perception, the production. Collaborate between art, science, engineering, and design. How might we? How might we? How might we? How might we? So, food for thought. Thank you very much. We can talk for the next like 27 minutes. Feel free to open your mics and share whatever thoughts you have.
I think
I
we had to
saw
get all of
the,
the.
oh, sorry, Beth.
No, go for
Okay.
it, Bobby. What are you thinking?
No, I was just gonna say I saw the Netflix thing. Um, uh, Andy gave me that assignment to watch it over the weekend, and I did not this weekend, a while ago, and I really loved it, but it didn't quite click as well as it did when you were kind of going over the over her diagram, and then also kind of the layer diagram. But but yeah, it really clicked when you were describing kind of the vectors between the different kind of categories of equal categories of design. Um, so I really liked that explanation. I'll be honest, my probably um weakness in this would be the art. So I understood like information, science turns information into knowledge, engineering takes knowledge and turns it into utility into behavior for design. I was like, yes, all of this, cool. And then you said behavior to information for art. I was like, what? Like, I don't get that part, but it's probably just because I'm like low on art power. So would love to hear more about that part.
Yes. And we all have like preferences, right? And weak spots. But really when you watch a movie and it triggers a thought, or when you play a game and you learn something about experience design, that's when the Cinderella moment I talked about, right? When the the perception of another human being reflected on a piece of art, on a game, talks to like the deep parts of you and talks to you about philosophy and science and the whole thing. Thank you, Bobby. Jay, did you have a comment?
I was only saying it was quiet for a second because everyone needed to get all of the emojis out because that was incredible and super powerful. And I have bunches of thoughts, but I want to let other people talk first.
Also, feel free to jump in here. I see we already have comments there, but we can continue also there if you want to type instead of talk. I will move around here while you open your mic and share.
I love that session so much, Andy. I mean, it was so much heavier than I thought your topic was going to be. Like it was really deep. I thought there was an interesting what could come across as a contradiction between elements of both of our sessions in terms of do we keep the playbook or do we throw the playbook away? Um, I think the playbook is representative a lot more of the how and the methods than it is, say, the information. And so, well, I definitely don't think that we should toss the knowledge and the information that and the humanity and the pieces that I think we want to build on top of, but definitely how we utilize that information and what we can do with that information now has significantly changed. And I don't know that the how so much um, creates waste or it creates baggage or debt so much as it is if we like I think the author said if you ignore it and try to supplement it with something else, right? Like anti knowledge or facts or the like. So, but I think it was I think it was an interesting what could have been perceived as a contradiction. I think both still complement each other, just maybe semantics are different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think what these two authors suggest is that sometimes the playbook is how we've been doing things, and how we've been doing things is ignoring our knowledge. It is working around our knowledge. It is trying to speed things up. It is trying to do what stakeholders want us to do. Sometimes that is our playbook because it's the way we've survived. But that is maybe ignoring the science behind it or the art, the culture. So there's a playbook behind the playbook, I guess. Bobby?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that point too. In the past, I mean, I'm obviously everyone that knows me knows I'm big on structure, frameworks, like
No.
advancing existing frameworks like that are valid, right? And I've said um, when you choose to ignore that stuff, there's a term in science for a experimental design that didn't have enough participants to prove anything, and it's n equals one, right? It's another way of saying an anecdote, right? Yeah, that seems cool, but where's the proof that it's worked for anybody else in the same way, and that we can go, yeah, we should do this, right? Well, there is none. It's a n equals one, right? So the whole point of higher education, the system that we support, is to protect the integrity of knowledge that has been advanced and advance that knowledge by abiding by and respecting what has been learned. And if you do change it or go in your own direction, prove that that's for the better of humanity, not just because let's just say maybe there was a strong influence to do something that maybe you didn't have time or resources to kind of protect that integrity of the system as a whole, right? So um, this slide really landed with me, um, reminded me of that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
That
And I think that is speaking about this direction of the moving clock, but it can also go backwards. And I think if we have AI to help us do the full circle, like Bobby can put into our system the whole amount of knowledge we have, Cheryl or Michelle or me or Bobby can work on that from research, and then Jay or Andre or Joey or anyone else in the team can plug into that knowledge and either like engineering it or reverse engineering it, connect the dots. It doesn't matter the direction we go in the clock. It matters that we do the full circle, right?
I have a question for you, Andrea. Um, it seems to me that a lot of what you're presenting is value driven. You talked about Brian talked about that in the keynote. But at the same time, it seems like in higher education and the world in general, there's a lot of disparity about what we value. We don't all agree. So I'm kind of thinking about, well, do these ideas align with the ideas of our customers, and do they need to align with them? How does that affect our role?
Yes, that's really what we talk about when we talk about epistemology to ontology, because once we have that amount of information, really the question is, where do we take it? How are you in the world? What does it mean to be a good human? What does it mean to transform higher ed? How do we want to transform higher ed? What does value mean? What is valuable to the admin I am serving, to the student I am serving? Where are we going? That's the question. And that's our role as user experience designers now, to care about what is value and what our user needs to do to move into the future they want to have, and what does that future look like. Our role is no longer to design a drop down. It is to design transformation. And to design that transformation, we have to define value. So when we meet with you, Denise, we need to define what value is. We need to define what future is in the horizon, because there are a lot of alternative futures we can take people to. And if we don't define that, we can take them into any part of the multiverse and end up in a multiverse we don't want to be in.
Thank you.
So that's the question. Your question, Denise, that's the question.
All comes back to asking questions.
Mhm. The most important question. What is good? What is value?
I think there was an element of this where you just the last slide, but stay on this slide, please, is the of like taking all that knowledge and all that stuff that has been, I don't want to say proven, but validated, right? Validated to be um, the thing that is our best guess at something that is going to produce something good versus versus guessing, I think what like human-centered design, right? A lot of this is about humanity and we've the term human-centered design has been around for a long time. And I think we kind of do take that for granted in a way. I think a lot of people think of that as kind of a practical, like we do usability testing, we do user research, and then we design based on that. I do think that's a part of it, but I think um, human-centered design, like anything worth advancing or doing right, it is difficult. It's not just go by the number. It's not a synonym for UX. UX is something, and human-centered design is a part of UX. And I think that you mentioned like what does it mean to be human, right? Well, how can you design? How can you create human-centeredness in your design if we don't share a definition of what it means to be human and then a set of methods to apply that into designs, right? And that can be done. That can be done, and I hope that will be done. And like sleep seems very easy, right? We all go to sleep at night, and you just lay your head down on the pillow, put a blanket over you, and you go to sleep, right? But is it easy to get really good sleep every night, like for weeks on end? No, it's not, right? Well, what if you knew a little bit more about the the nature of sleep and what it means to sleep, how to get good sleep, why you're not getting good sleep, and you leaned on some body of knowledge or methods or something that was at the pinnacle of what we know to be true or closest to something we know to be true. Maybe you could get a little bit of better sleep that might make a little bit of difference in your life that, could change a lot of things, right? So little changes are good. And nothing's easy, but all these things are worth some attention.
Yes.
Agreed. Yeah.
Jay, go ahead.
That, what Bobby just said and what you just wrote here, Andy, kind of relate to the two big pieces of this that really stood out to me. Like this human-centered equals nature-centered. And then the thing about Neri Oxman, things decomposing and making the earth nature better than before. And then if you can you go to the very last line where it's someone helping someone up, like two hands grasping. I think that kind of sums it up to me of what does it mean? And I love how you were phrasing this. You phrased it so well of how do we turn this inward and see how it makes sense to us. And as simple as it seems to me, I think student first is kind of how we are trying to do this, not just the term that we're using to put some products together, like what it literally means to be student first. How can we prove and ensure that everything that we're building is doing this, one generation helping the next generation make nature, the earth, everyone better. Because I don't know if it was the same for everyone else, but like this is me when I went to college, and here's me after I left college. I grew so much, and it not just I learned how to do art stuff, but I learned how to learn, and I learned that learning is exciting, and it made me a much more curious person. And if we can prove that we are supporting our customers doing that to students or for students, I think that's a huge piece. And then a tie-in for Bobby's is personalizing it. Not everyone is going into school on the same footing. Everyone is struggling with different things. There could be like literal trauma that people are dealing with. So if we can personalize these experiences as well, we can try to make that next generation of humans better. So I think we're already doing a bit of this. Bobby, your team has already put together, jobs to be done that which are normally admin focused, but then you kind of have that switch in there. We flip that and you show how that provides student um, support and how that makes things better for students. So wouldn't it be brilliant if we had some type of a thing or an agent that we pointed all of our in progress solutions to and said, check us. Is this actually making things better for students? Are we missing areas where we can improve things for students? And then it just can roll up from there. We can use that to sell it more to schools. Like, here's how we're not just like saying student first, we're living it. Here's the proof, whether that proof is showing value that we think or showing value that we've tested. That's my big ramble about that. The other final thought that really stood out to me is the weird difference between where we are with AI right now. Because even Neri Oxman saying we need to leave the world a better place and not have an impact on nature. Right now, AI is having a massive negative impact on nature. And it's weird, right? Because if we are like, okay, that's bad, shut it down, do we miss that next evolution of AI that teaches us how to be better at nature? So it's such a weird spot to be in to know, yes, we're doing much more damage right now. Here's a sad face with X's as eyes. But if we keep doing a little more damage, maybe we get to the point where we have this massive growth where everything that Neri Oxman is doing is second nature to us, pun intended, nature. That everything is just ingrained in nature, and we get to that avatar thing that Joey put in the chat there. So those were the two big things. Very long and rambly, but like I think we can hyper focus on student first, and then just this kind of split is super weird to me. And I struggle with this personally. I use AI so much in my personal life too, but then I always feel a little guilty for doing it. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, trees and ozone and water. So it's weird.
Thank you, Jay, for saying the thing I didn't want to say out loud, but I wanted you to conclude in your own mind. Like, are we digging a hole to filling another hole? And is the hole we're digging bigger than the initial hole? But yes, that's a question, a very important question. And
I've so
wait a
yeah,
minute.
go. Oh, okay,
Before we that I wanted to leave that question open, and before we leave, I do want to touch on an important topic, and we have here Edith Varela. She works a lot on accessibility here at Ellucian. She's done a lot of awesome work, and I was talking with you, Edith, on Friday about this, about how thinking about human-centered design, nature-centered design, accessibility is just natural to land on if we design like this. So I want your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, at first, thank you for all of these diagrams that totally make sense to what we are doing every day. Sometimes we don't realize the impact that you have with your work every day, but but when you have a diagram like the one that you show, it's like, yeah, I am there and I am doing the things to make the people success, student success, or everyone else who needs to access information. We are building the systems to make it accessible for everyone as much as possible. So that makes totally sense, and I'm feeling like proud to be a part of all of this. And sometimes without having this, how can I say, consciousness that I am in. But when someone comes like you, Andy, and say, "Hey, here you are," I totally love it. I was thinking about sometimes accessibility is like it's considered like a checklist, like a project, like a list of things that you need to be compliant because there are laws and there are rules, etc. There are standards. But when you take this view, like we are humans, we have the knowledge, we have all of these processes in place, and I want to make this system be used by anyone. It is the humanity that comes to the game, and I believe that make the things easier when you say I am a human, I am building a system for another human. So that I think accessibility should be there because not all the humans have the same how can I say this abilities to use the system. So definitely accessibility is part of that. And this is like the perfect time when it is in the design phase, when all these aspects should be considered. And so, yeah, totally accessibility is there.
Mhm. If we don't ignore the science that every human is different, like Jay said, every student is different, we inevitably design accessible systems, right? Because
Correct.
we are ethically designing, nor not ignoring the knowledge we have, not designing for the average student.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this, Andy. It's
Thank you.
great.
Great. Any last thoughts? We have like 4 minutes. I love that we have a Cinderella moment in the chat with Loretta asking Bobby to read Jurassic Park to understand human nature. That's where art lets us like leads us into philosophy and science and economy and the whole thing.
I don't have time to read that, Loretta, but I am asking ChatGPT what would happen if I did relative to our exchange in the chat. So I'll send that to you.
Oh, how funny. Yes, please.
AI is helping Bobby cover the art corner of
Yeah.
this.
I have been telling people about that first chapter in Jurassic Park ever since they started, having these conversations about AI, because my daughter and I listened to it recently, and everything, it was just a repeat. You just replace bioengineering with AI, and it's all the stuff we're hearing now. Exactly.
I love it. I love it, Loretta. You're bringing the art into our conversation. I love it. And I've also heard about Jurassic Park as a way to understand AI. Great. Any last thoughts?
Just taking a little bit of time to acknowledge how incredible that was, and the conversation that it created is absolutely amazing. So huge kudos to that. That was awesome.
Thanks.
You set the bar really high, Andy. I'm so glad I went before you and I don't have to go after you. So to the to the rest of the team, good luck. But Andy, that was an exceptional talk. Thank you.
Talking about what comes next, because you asked me to plug the next thing. I think next we have the hackathon, right? Michelle, I think you're next.
Hackathon is next at 12:45.
All right, thank you very much.
Can
So
you can you keep talking so I can post this result in the chat here really quick?
yes, I won't let anyone go until Bobby posts something on the chat.
I want Loretta.
And thank
I
you
was
very
gonna
much.
send it to Loretta, but I want to send it to everyone.
Oh,
And
yeah,
thank
you
you.
got to share.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a link. Thank you for coming to my talk. I was very nervous, and I actually posted like my submission to do this talk before I knew what I was going to say. I just knew I wanted to say something, and I knew I have seen these diagrams before, and they had something to do with what I wanted to say. And I really put it together last week. But I love it so much. I really planned it with my whole heart and soul. And I hope we can work together to make nature better than it was before we landed on this earth. And I love collaborating with all of you because I know all of you want to do your best. And I like every one of you. I've talked to you. I know you have the best intentions in the world, and that working together, we can cover all the bases and all the layers. And with or without AI, we are a great team here at Ellucian. So let's do it. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks all. Bye bye.
Bye.